Welcome back. This is Seth Esposa, Black Earth Productions, Blue Flame, Healing Arts and Occult Science, Temple of the White Dragon, here with Thomas Sheridan. We're back up on another segment. Agreed to touch base within a few months instead of stretching it out. As far as my observations go, the tidal waves of madness continue. What are some things that you would like to discuss today?
Yeah, the tide of madness, it's remarkable actually. It's obviously definitely the wave function collapse happening in the Maya perception of reality, this combined dream. At the same time, it's a secular process that as pagans we accept as the end of one cycle and the beginning of another. And the prophecy of the ancients, and not just the Nordic and the Celtic people, but the Hindus as well, all point to a time when consciousness cycles itself, and before that happens, there is an era of complete insanity and mental, cognitive, social breakdown.
It's pretty wild. I don't know what else to do except ride these waves. You're talking about perception. One of the things that I teach in terms with the Mystery School, exposing the manipulation, tactics, and context of the nervous system, and that being directly connected to the gauge of our perception, how our thought and emotion operate, and the unbelievable wave function collapse that you're alluding to. It's absolutely off the charts. Some of the conversations I'm having with certain individuals seem absolutely nonsensical to me, as if they can't even see the waves for what they are, and they want to go on about certain matters that have no relevance whatsoever, as if they're not able to see it. It blows my mind because of the cognitive abilities I've been able to come into myself. How is it that waves that people are getting hit with cause them to function in a way where they literally can't see it for what it is, being pulled into a fucking undertow?
Oh yeah, well, like you said, the nervous system and the DNA is our main interface. If that's damaged or messed with, and we know that a lot of people have been needle crafted up the tits in the last few years, and we know that they've brought in new technologies that are to do with telecommunications, and the combination of those two things plus the uncertainty of the normal world has distorted them. They have to be affecting us. The nervous system is key. I mean, you think of your nervous system as the plug in here. Really, that's what it is.
No.
And you're right. Look, it's two things are happening. They're merrily deteriorating and going down the psychic plug hole. Many of us are the exact opposite is happening. Like you were saying, I'm having unbelievable synchronicity and access to auguries that I've probably never had in my entire life. I've never felt like the gods are closer, that
Right.
they can be petitioned so much more effectively, much more accessible and less aloof in terms of animistic engagements. It's quite remarkable to have had some spectacular, even especially this weekend, some spectacular, auguries and synchronicities. That's the other side of it. If you're tuned in and you're not needle crafted, you will actually get through this.
I've definitely been experiencing that as well. Some quests that have manifested, again, the gauge of perception, and then, of course, being in a place of observation with what is going on. Otherwise, the contrast continues to increase. That's another thing I'm realizing as far as this path work is concerned. The deeper and higher we go into it, the more that contrast is going to increase. And I don't think a lot of people understand the high levels of chasms that are manifesting a true separation in terms of timelines unfolding before our very eyes. I've gotten into this on the platform. I touched upon these things with you as well. But to literally witness the times that we are in and being a part of anchoring the higher cognizance in the face of these tidal waves of madness, it's been quite the fucking challenge. Some of the things that I would like to convey and like to get into, I think that we're still in a preparatory time.
Absolutely, yeah. There's no golden age coming anytime soon. It's like a World War battle. We've left the trenches and we're moving towards the other trenches on the other side. Behind us is the artillery, and what they're doing is they're putting a barrage in front of us to protect us. Eventually, there's a point where the creeping barrage of shells on us and the other side, the enemy's trenches, they're all intermixed at one time. We're only getting now sight of the front line, and the closer you are to the front line, the noisier it gets. and the more confusing it gets. You know what they say, after the first 10 minutes, every battle plan breaks down.
That's definitely how it feels from a certain point of view. At the same time, reaching for unity consciousness and being in communication and networking, there's a certain invisible barrier that we're not necessarily able to get past yet, because I don't think people fully fucking understand what we're up against here. And
No, they don't.
you got into Lovecraft
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, but yeah, true.
with some of your recent segments,
Yeah.
and it's like I've been talking about as far as what was instituted, the needlecraft, and what was put in, how it correlates to mythos and all of these different things, the digital spectrum, the people doing autopsies on bodies of people that have died from this needlecraft bullshit. You got this squid chick. You can't make this up. People still want to be in denial in terms of these matters. A lot of the things that attribute the mythos are way more true than a lot of people can wrap their minds around. It's definitely become more true for me, literally witnessing, like you're talking to those of us that have been going with the actual tradition and getting back to our roots and activating the codes. We're closer to the ancestors via the gods and goddesses than we've ever been.
It's the great mystery, isn't it? Maybe some souls are not destined to see it and know it, and others are. It's a huge part of it.
If they can't see what's right in front of them, what are you going to do otherwise, right?
Yeah, I have to look at it myself in the last couple of years. I've done everything to inform people on this stuff. They don't, it's in one ear and out the other with so many of them.
Yeah.
It's like they don't want to pay attention. They're in denial. It's like we're saying about those guys who were doing those autopsy. There's one guy in England, John O'Looney, and he's on Rumble and BitChute. He's not alone because he brings in morticians from all over the UK and from the US and Canada. And they're all reporting Mother Hydra's babies. Even use the word calamari entities that are growing inside their bodies. I know Lovecraft was a seer.
Right.
And people are dropping dead left, right, and center. We're very close now to the body in the street scenario. And I don't know how it is where you live, but around here, I've never seen so many ambulances on the road as I do now. And all these ambulances, the sirens are deliberately shut off so not to induce public panic. Or, you know, people are suddenly wondering what the hell is going on. But there's a lack of cognition in terms of the average person. Some of these are very bright people too as well, having the wherewithal to actually want to walk into the world and observe these things. They'd rather pretend they don't exist. Well, that's the state they're all in. They're all in denial.
I definitely observe it as well, even when the evidence is presented. And whatever cognitive fucking screws are loose with these individuals, they obviously don't have the capacity to see. And yeah, Lovecraft was definitely a seer, pulling into a spectrum that I think a lot of people, if they were even to get a drop of that, they would go fucking mad, even if they were protected and weren't necessarily having the high level of fucking interface. That's the difference with me, though. I've had direct interface with this shit, on top of everything else that so many other people, you know, talk about, the phenomenon of supernatural shit that can take place. But at the same time, reaching for that ground and anchoring the higher here through the midst of these waves and riding these waves. It's like Dune, when Paul puts his hand in the box and he's being tested in terms of nerve induction. Whether real or fucking imagined, people operate accordingly. And it's very easy nowadays. I even spoke with some people. They're fucking seeing it too, in total awe of what they've witnessed happen. They're seeing it, man. Witnessing what you and I are discussing, and the high levels of cognitive dissonance, clinging on to this concept of vicarious atonement, that something else is going to come do it, that something else is going to come fucking save us, or the aliens are going to do it. Going with the fucking program. Repackage this idea that we don't have to take responsibility in terms of our reality field, man. And this is what the gods of our ancestors require.
This is the legacy of Christianity in Europe, in the European world. Just told them to, you know, this sky fairy is coming. In the meantime, all I have to do is believe in it. Right. It will come one day and everything will be fixed.
Well, that's what the fucking angels are. the fucking sky fairies. In the meantime, they're dropping down angel fire on this high level of technology that Maui they fucking have. I was fucking banned. I saw
that bit, but was there other stuff that happened to me too 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, I was just going at certain things really fucking hard. I just didn't give a fuck. Whatever, man. I just see this tidal wave of fucking madness raising higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. But at the same time, you see that trajectory of what is beyond it, to focus in on these things and not allowing the psychic waves, especially because of my disposition. I can pick up on what's happening in the region, in the American territories, or across the fucking world.
Well, they're never going to defeat or usurp natural law. That's just not going to happen. So much of the madness around at the moment is these dark forces working through certain beings, declaring war upon natural law. It's in complete violation and profanity of everything in the universe. And they can't possibly win, telling little kids that they don't have a gender and all this nonsense. That there's a parasitic consciousness force that has always been a problem. Our ancestors always spoke about these kinds of things. Mm-hmm. That has now the ability to finally have its dream of annihilating the human race.
Yeah, that's definitely been the goal.
Whether it's interdimensional, I'm inclined to believe it's interdimensional. That would tie in quite well with pagan folklore in terms of goblins.
Like absolutely is.
What the ancestors called them. The other ones, fairies, are considered pathological human haters. That works for me. That works an interdimensional.
Right. And taking it to Lovecraft's experience, what he was observing in terms of the lower astral. This is fucking H.R. Geiger times a fucking million.
Well, that's it. I mean, because I've been kind of really looking into his artwork lately.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of similarities between Geiger and Lovecraft. Lovecraft is very open about it. He said it was the nocturnal phantasms of his slumbers. That's what caused him to have a horrific nervous breakdown when he was 17, and he spent his time, wandering the streets of Providence in a terrible state.
Mm-hmm.
Geiger, he became very traumatized and suicidal. The downloads allowed them to peer beyond the Maya and see the actual forces that were behind it. Mm-hmm. Lovecraft's mythos and Geiger's biomechanic xenomorph. You're absolutely right. In fact, this is a time where both of those men's work has basically come into genuine fruition in terms of the world we live in.
And the reason why is because the veils are being fucking pierced. And I've said this, that most of humanity stands at the first veil, learning about the corruption of government, politics, religion, false education, indoctrination, media, all of this lower tier shit. With the works I've been able to put out, the second veil is even fucking worse. Once that curtain's pulled the fuck back, now you see what's running everything else on the lower tiers. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And the dream time factor, being the third veil, how I get into things, is where a lot of individuals need to go, learning how to master dream time awakening in context to the subconscious, unconscious mind field. It's not even fucking conscious. Like Carl Jung stated, we do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious, right?
Yeah.
And that word being a talismanic word, even for some people that are fucking ignorant, they don't know the English language. There is no darkness, but ignorance. Ignorance of what? What the fuck is actually going on here? Okay. And not just the dynamic of what I'm getting at, the tidal waves, but of what is beyond, which is my focus in terms of the platform, everything that I touch upon. Why am I able to face this shit and not be so over fucking whelmed, drowning like I see a lot of people? Otherwise, they're in denial and just distracted, pulled in 20,000 different fucking directions. I've been able to anchor what's beyond and see what's beyond and keep fucking going and be on the fucking front lines like yourself and everybody else. This is the only thing that keeps me going, is knowing what's beyond all of this fucking shit. It's literally manifested. It's going to continue to manifest, especially going into, you think of the timeline trajectory. I'm thinking AI, the biometric fucking nightmare realm manifestation of what Lovecraft and Geiger and even other seers like myself, other people that have this ability, have been able to fucking observe. You're 100% correct. It is interdimensional. And the way it's getting in terms of consciousness, the manipulation of the genome with the needlecraft, it's absolutely undeniable.
We've been here in this place in history before. You had people like way back on the beginning, when the Industrial Revolution was just beginning, people like William Blake,
Yes.
He was deeply concerned that ancients and then later on Nietzsche in Germany, they were confronting the same dynamic like we are, the confrontations, psychic confrontations. This has been a long battle. I often wonder how much of Western civilization has actually been guided by these interdimensional forces. as if they were the ones who says, let's make the industrial revolution so we can make humans prisoners of the digital ones, so we can make them prisoners
Right,
of the
in 1914.
Yeah.
With the Federal Reserve Act, and then came World War One, the Great Depression, so on and so forth. It's been rolling on that ever fucking since.
Yeah, 1933 was a major year as well.
Yeah.
There were huge things that were done around the world to actually set up World War II on purpose.
And all the triangulation factors when it comes to certain isms, communism, socialism, fascism, it's all the same triangulation.
Oh, yeah, it's all the same. Yeah.
Fractaled out on itself, and then humans not knowing the difference, forced to pick a side because they don't even have the capacity to fucking see beyond these triangulation factors.
No.
Well triangulated.
Yeah. Dogma is the ambrosia of the weak. The weak need dogma. They need orthodoxy, right?
Yeah.
They need dogma. Dogma is also, in many ways, an enemy of natural law. Dogma exists because it's trying to usurp natural law. I've been reading a lot lately about psychogeography. I taught psychogeography, this idea of studying mostly urban environments and the people and their behavior and how it affects them. It was quite interesting. It was something I've done myself, walking through towns and cities at night. Just what Lovecraft used to do in Providence. Walk for hours and hours at night around the city. And the whole thing was set up by a bunch of communists as a way of like treating people like they were studying ants. What they started was a wicked thing. So when I heard that, I was like, they have to study people like that? Proof it's another entity that's working through people. That they actually doing it on behalf behind the other side of the spectrum.
Yeah. It's been definitely a lower force that's been operating. They can't fucking hide anymore, though. That's the thing. It's all risen to the surface. And being a grid worker, it's pretty brutal fucking work. I've been all over the North American territories on my end of the world doing grid work, anchoring the higher where I'm at. It's definitely having a certain effect. These ancient grids that have been buried asunder, take it back to the cataclysms and how things were before. And I'm talking about actual dragon lines, ley lines, all of these different things. The overlays that have manifested reflect the overlays and distortions people are dealing with, not knowing the difference, caught within this fucking infrastructure that has been overtly triangulated. That's when the malware kicks in. That I also see has increased. The warfare this year, I warned about 2023. It really started to kick in back in March. We touched base and now we're back again. It's only increased since the last time we spoke.
You talk about the war and the whole psychic warfare. Oh, absolutely, yeah. The bloodbath has only got more bloodier. What I detect underneath of sadism on the other side that's declared war upon humanity and the human race are sadistically turned on by it. Almost like a serial force that's just feeding here. Humanity is being hunted as a blood sport.
Right.
Fuckers who go out there and they get kicks out just killing as many things as possible.
Mm-hmm.
They feel like the latter.
High levels of vampirism in context. It's always been the war between the Lycan and the vampire.
Yeah.
Where do we get these ideas from? And people think it's just lore or fantasy fucking bullshit. Because of the overlays and the indifference of actual proper knowledge and wisdom, people want to mock the myths and that saga we are living now. And if we're going to experience the Ragnaroker, we got to get past this skip in the record. And I'm at a certain point, I'm thinking to myself, how does this happen on the level without complete and total fucking annihilation taking place? Otherwise, the infection here in context is being normalized all across the fucking world. You want to talk about high levels of cognitive dissonance right on down to the body politic? This is nonsensical conversations. We shouldn't even be having these conversations. You're getting into debates and all this different fucking bullshit, but that's where people are going.
That's 100%. Actually, talk about the old myths and the old gods. There's been lots of stories in the media of people who have been needlecrafted, dying in woodlands, being found dead in the woods. It made me think of loads of pagan myths from Artemis, Diana, and the groves. That when a profane individual transgresses upon the grove, a sacred grove of a god, they're struck down. Now, a normal mortal can go into a grove as an innocent and not be affected. But if they go in there with any kind of belief that they're more powerful than the gods, i.e. fully topped up with the needlecraft, because they don't think that nature is good enough anymore, and nature is the gods, that they're struck down. Lots of people have mysteriously died in the woods. A lot of that is because they transpired onto the sacred groves. And Artemis, the old grey man in the Celtic tradition, has just taken them out.
Right. The sword of the north, like we've been talking about, man.
Yeah.
That's what I gauge is going to be the consequence if people keep violating cosmic law. A lot of people don't even know about cosmic law still. Of course, it's been used against us in context of mind control, manipulating the first law in context. Again, it's all about our state of mind. Again, this is why they do mind control, so on and so forth. But I think now, because more and more people are coming into this wisdom, coming into this proper knowledge in terms, now they're doing everything they can to fucking destroy it. Because they know that they can't use it against us on a certain level now, because more and more people are waking the fuck up, especially since 2020. They can't hide it anymore, man. That's my point. All this poison's rising to the surface. Our generations are the ones to force confront it, taking the fuck out by the higher force in turns. It ain't gonna last as far as I'm concerned. However long it plays itself the fuck out. These are extremely trying times. And I know there's a lot of people out there dealing with a lot of shit. But we have to stand our ground and encourage and empower ourselves and one another in the face of this fucking shit. I think it's so easy seeing the state and the condition continue to get worse and worse and worse, to fall into potential hopelessness and despair. These lower emotional charges that we're dealing with, psychically speaking, that want to suck us into the fucking abyss, where it's actually our opportunity to bridge this shit and seal it the fuck off right in its fucking face. Yeah.
Absolutely. I was listening to the Scottish commentator pundit Neil Oliver there, and he was talking about that same thing. Both things you mentioned there. One, so many people have woken up and they're going for broke now. They're like a rat backed into a corner.
Yeah.
What's woken them up is the fellas like you and I and thousands of other people out there who are the monks of the electromagnetic spectrum, dispensing this alternative wisdom. They never expected that because they don't have that inside themselves. They don't make contingency for what happens among mortals or the humans. And that's taken them by enormous surprise. They knew there'd be a handful of people, call them conspiracy theorists or whack jobs and loons and stuff like that. Now you can actually see legislation around the world to stop freedom of speech. They're absolutely frightened. You know, I don't necessarily agree with David Icke's reptilians, but I do believe in the basic overall concept of some kind of interdimensional force. And that's ironically what they banned him for. They didn't ban him for anything else. They were afraid that he'd gotten too close to the truth that they want no one to know. They're an infected scourge, the globalists and their minions. Mm-hmm. And I think the globalists and their minions are even figuring out now that they're vassals for something else and they can't control it.
They always have been. That's a point of the quote unquote awakening, the times that we are in. It's as if they're even being given a chance to fucking catch it and course correct and take the fucking pivot onto the timeline that we're actually meant to be. These are quote unquote our fucking leaders. They're not even fucking qualified, man.
Oh, no, we have the worst leadership in the history of the world now.
Right, that's my point. They're not even qualified to know what our kind know because they're not doing the real work otherwise. They're just going with the fucking program. They're taking orders from this interdimensional parasitic consciousness that, as far as I'm concerned, it can take whatever fucking shape it wants, whether it's a reptilian, whether it's an insectoid or a gray or a fucking human. It's the consciousness within the vessel that needs to be addressed, not just, scathing surfaces and thinking that we're getting fucking anywhere. But that's how superficial people are. Because they don't have this ability. And any of us that call it out, of course, we're going to be called insane. Of course, we're going to be deemed as the madman or whatever the fuck. Okay, thanks for that. Because when it's all said and done, the veils are going to be pulled back.
That's why acceptance of supernaturalism is the answer. We're dealing with a supernatural war. To avoid or deny the naturalism of it is like, going into battle without a bulletproof vest and a gas mask. And this is the problem with so many people. Even people who I know who should know better still think they're dealing with asshole politicians or asshole bureaucracy or asshole civil servants. They don't understand that they're dealing with a force that's functioning through these people.
Right. And because they don't have the capacity to discern, most people, they're just privy to their five physical senses, obviously manipulated as well to keep people in the lower energy centers. That puts them into a loop that eventually wears out the energy system. You
And
know,
they give in because of all the constant gaslighting in the media.
exactly.
That's what happens with a person who's been broken down by gaslighting.
Mhm.
They just basically throw in the towel and say, "Tell me what I need to do." And that's so many people now. Even the good ones and intelligent ones we've lost along the way, it's because the gaslighting got to them.
And also how people are gaslighting themselves when it's obvious otherwise, but they go into fucking denial and justifying in context. And the main reason why is because people don't want to take high levels of fucking responsibility that are required for those of us that incarnated for this time. It's all being tested. Looking at the whole gambit, okay, we got to get the fuck in there and do something about this. Otherwise, it's fucking done. And that's been my attitude. I haven't gone through all the shit I have for no fucking reason, just to cave and buckle under at this point. If anything, we need to be quadrupling down and really seeing the dynamic for what it is. Okay, what's the actual solution? And this is why I developed the school I did, to give people a viable pathwork trajectory, to make connection back to nature and the universe and force contend this supernatural phenomenon that obviously exists, that people still want to be in denial of, but it's also designed at the same time to pull us away and break and sever that connection to the actual anchor of what's beyond all of this shit. And that's what I think a lot of people don't understand, because they're so overwhelmed with this tidal wave otherwise. Whatever you give your focus to, you give your energy to.
Yeah.
And it's just
Oh,
a
absolutely.
blast on the constant barrage targeting the nervous system in terms of induction. And again, that's one of the main tactics of dark sorcery. If people don't get the fucking fact that we're up against minions on ground level that are being worked through, this is what the ancients knew. This is what it all goes back to in terms of the crux. It's not governments and religions. It's something beyond that's running everything.
Yeah. That, as a kid, that it would have to be something else. These people don't act like human beings. What's the way out? Okay, well, first of all, once you accept the issue and what's going on, you're already start affecting your nervous system. Your nervous system, it's primed and attenuated by being in cohesion with natural law. Your charismatic charge will protect you from a lot of this shit. It gives you an edge. Seeing it for what it is, and then doing the work on yourself. Like you said, doing the work, going to work on yourself spiritually, going to work on yourself creatively. Don't be depending on outside sources for salvation. Yes, there's help. Yes, there's advice. Yes, there's counsel. But ultimately, you'll have to pick up the sword metaphorically in the end and walk across that field. People need to get in realignment with natural law, and a huge part of that is accepting how fucked up it is. And I know we do, but there's lots of people who don't and can't see just how dark the whole fucking thing is. And those of us who do come to terms with what's happening do enhance our charismatic charge. We're developing a parallel society, just like we have an alternative media. There's an alternative everything happening. Mm-hmm. And who chooses to be masticated in the jaws of this xenomorphic transhumanist Azathoth Cthulhu-like entity and its minions? The rest of us can get on.
Yeah.
We don't have acquiescence is the issue, and we don't have to give our approval.
And the two main timelines that are playing out, this is also part of certain prophecies. You take it to the Hopi. It's even there in our tradition in terms of the Ragnarok. When this whole thing rises back up, it's the war of the fucking gods all over again. Loki being the one to insinuate everything.
Yeah.
What I've been able to correlate in terms of what has taken place, it all goes back to trade deals that took place with the Svartalf farm. This also co-signed the resurgence of the old ones into the Nine Worlds, literally what I'm observing with what's happening. And you think about the funeral pyre of Balder. Who's the one leading that? It's fucking Hyrrokin. Mm-hmm. And the rise of the Gynocracy and this hardcore neo-feminist shit and men in the world being castrated and total twisting of nature and the universe and how things were pulling things further and further into the abyss in context. We could talk about CERN, the whole concept of wormholes getting ripped open, but where it's happening is within people's body politic. And I've addressed this recently, the importance of our physical vessel, this technology that we have. Why do you think they're poisoning the air and poisoning the food and doing all this different kind of shit so that we don't have the capacity to integrate higher consciousness, to even see this for what the fuck it is, and then you just go with it?
100%. I agree with every single word you said. I was just thinking there a while ago too, that up until a few years ago, the archetype of Loki was very strong. Loki the trickster, Loki the flash of insight, the Luciferian moment. Well, I've noticed now that Loki's archetype is not very strong now. It's come and gone. We're now at the moment of Loki's now moved on, and what we're left with right now is we're confronting the end of the Aesir gods. In Ragnarok, it's that brutal, it's that intense, and the ones who didn't listen, Midgard Serpent will drown them,
Yep.
and the ones who did listen will rise up again to begin with the Vanir gods.
Mm. Right. Recreate that unity consciousness in terms of our codes. Because all this poison has to come up. It has not been dealt with since what happened did. I'll take it back to the betrayals of Kemet. Because of what was there before that manifested the wisdom councils in ancient times, that was what was betrayed, the manifestation of religion and politics. For at least the last 13,000 years, all of it is literally in everyone's face.
It's even in things like attack on the physical body, but attack on the actual legacy of humanity. All this ancient alien shit, that's all about not allowing human beings to recognize the brilliance of their ancestors.
Right.
You know, they couldn't have built all these incredible monuments without outside help. That's what that's rooted in. They don't want us believing how amazing we are.
The whole idea that we were not capable of doing that is human.
Pisses me off, yeah. It
Yeah.
pisses me off. I consider that show, Ancient Aliens, just doing a great disservice to the human race.
Right.
By constantly degrading it.
Mm-hmm. Getting us to see ourselves as less than what we're actually capable of. How dare we shine forth? This is another thing that I've been confronting, and also what I've been confronting with other students. How dare anyone shine forth, right?
Yeah.
How dare anyone rise the fuck up and actually pull the alignment in the face of this fucking shit?
Yes.
That is exactly what this dark, ignorant force doesn't want to fucking happen. Here come the witch burnings, here come the torture chambers or whatever the fuck, right? They killed our fucking kind before, but they can't now. That's the thing.
They send all kinds of false leads as well. They send people that haven't risen up. They've chosen to mislead us, thinking that they're some kind of great spiritual leader. Classic example of Applied Piper.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of those out there. We're going to get the fucking shit thrown at us. You know, another thing about this whole C333 we talked about before, the high levels of cognitive dissonance when it comes to trolls and smear campaigns. It's just absolutely laughable to me. The high levels of ignorance people think that they're going to be able to get away with when this sword is ripping and tearing to shreds all this bullshit otherwise.
Yeah.
So far ahead of the actual game, what's being played out right now.
Yep.
These people don't stand a chance because before it's all said and done, we're going to still be left standing, guaranteed.
Yeah, those types are building sandcastles on the beach while the tidal wave is coming in.
Right? That's your fortification. It's not just the tidal wave that they're going to get found in. It's the ultimate wave of this sword of the Great North that's coming in, chasing its ass.
Yep.
Doing everything it can to take as much as it can before it's ostensibly taken the fuck out. And if people can just let it pass over them and through them and then let it go, fear is the mind killer. That's what the first gates of initiation are all about. How much can you take without caving the fuck in?
Yeah, beautiful.
We have to increase our capacity.
Back to, again, the stewardship of your own nervous system.
Yeah, and that is the wand of fire that the Fool holds. The symbolism of the tarot. Fuck. Extensive amounts of conversations. I could only imagine getting into the different gates and the symbolism and what it means. But there's only two archetypes in the major arcana that hold the wand of fire, the Fool and the Hermit.
Yep.
That whole journey to become the master at the summit, most people, they don't get out of the first gate of initiation. They continue to walk off the cliffside in life.
No, they don't. No, they don't step into consciousness. They get stuck and they don't listen to the dog barking.
Like you said about the white wolf in context being symbolism of the higher force. This being the original symbol of Albion, the wolf, the cry of the wolf working to get our attention. That's our soul. That's our spirit. And then take it to the mythos in context of Balder. And what I put out with Yoke Hagstrom, getting into the saga that we're living now and how it all correlates, the mythos, and the new mythos needs to be created.
We have to live it as well. I love that expression you used there, the increasing contrast, because that's exactly what it is. That's an excellent way of putting it. Stand your ground, do the work, have good stewardship over your nervous system, and don't look to external salvation, and you'll be fine.
Excellent. All right, Thomas. Have a good rest of your evening.
Okay, brother.
We'll stay in touch, man. Excellent.
Take care. See ya.
Later. So to everyone who is checking out this segment, go into the description and there will be links to the rest of Thomas Sheridan's work, Light of the Procession of the Grand Cycle, and the works that I advocate, knowing the difference. I've been advocating unity consciousness in light of everything past, all of the overlays and distortions, all of the indiscretions, all of the things that we can get triangulated into in context to the divide and conquer, not only among our own kind, but the human races in general. It is time for all of us to focus and take things to the next level. The things expressed in terms of the conversation that you just listened to cannot be refuted. Everything is 100% confirmed, and also the results of those that are doing the real work, knowing the difference. So to plug things here in terms of the Mystery School, if anybody out there is interested in one-on-one mentorship, in terms of actual initiation into the occult, go to the website at blackearthproductions.com. Click on the services page, go through everything. Send me an email at blackearthproductions@hotmail.com and let me know what you want to set up. Products page is back up, Nectar of Athanasia is available, and everything else to the expression and amplification of the things that we know, despite the tidal waves of madness, to the contrast that we are bringing forth in alignment for those to whom it's meant, as well as other platforms and individuals that I've brought on with me. And if you are being prompted, I'm going to encourage you, again, to get a hold of me directly. I do not make myself unreachable. I'm very easy to get a hold of, and I do get back with everyone promptly and within reason in terms of actual capacity and intention. And if you are listening and that is you, then definitely hit me up in terms of everything. The healing arts and mastery of the nervous system goes into very powerful things. If you don't have the proper knowledge and wisdom in context to your personal template when it comes to that specifically, it is one of the main cause points which makes it very difficult for people to navigate consciousness, perception, in terms of their experience to reality, which is also why I only teach the things that I do, but in the fashion that I do, one-on-one, teacher to student, just like the ancients taught. It is very specific to the individual how all of this works, predicated the universal laws of metaphysics, the eternal axioms, and again, how things actually work in terms of nature, the universe, and reality. To wrap things up here with this segment, bring me my bow of burning gold. Bring me my arrows of desire. Bring me my spear, O clouds unfold. Bring me my chariots of fire. This is Seth Esposa, Black Earth Productions, Blue Flame Healing Arts and Occult Science, Temple of the White Dragon. I look forward to hearing from and speaking with more of you soon. Hails!